Hello，你好，Welcome back，欢迎回来to Wisdom Wednesday with Johnny Tiger on November 11th. No, November 13th. God, I'm like totally messing up today. November 13th, 2024. Now, about 2 years ago, I did an episode called Games That We Play, and it basically talked about the games that Chinese people play throughout history. And in that episode, I touched upon soccer lightly. But today, I'm going to revisit this, and we are going to do a deeper dive into the origin of soccer. Yeah, a lot of people, when we think about soccer, you're thinking European or Brazil, but probably not many people would be too surprised if I tell you that there's a big possibility that soccer may have originated from China. So today we are going to do a deep dive into Chinese soccer. Why am I calling this Chinese soccer? Because I'm willing to stay open-minded and say, well, maybe uh, Chinese people just happen to have a game that was similar to soccer, but white people actually invented soccer themselves. They didn't get it from China. I'm willing to stay open-minded for that. So, but there is a big possibility that it did come from China, and you'll probably understand more as we progress through the episode. But first, a few vocabularies. In Mandarin, soccer is called 足球. 足 means feet, foot. 球 means ball. And this word is used in many sports. Anything even remotely ball related, sometimes even not, there's no ball, but similar, it would be called something 球 in Mandarin. So for example, 足球 is soccer, football. And then American football is called 橄榄球. 橄榄 means olive, the olive ball, because of the shape of the football. It looks like an olive. Uh, Baseball is called 棒球. 棒 means a bat, a baseball bat. The 棒球, baseball. Basketball is called 篮球. 篮 means basket. And here's the funny one. Tennis is called 网球. Wang means net. So it's talking, it's meaning the shape of the tennis racket look like a net, a net ball. And hockey. There's not even a ball in hockey, but it's called 曲棍球. 曲棍 means crooked stick. The 曲棍球 means crooked stick ball. The act of playing ball, a lot of time when you say, "Oh, where's George?" and we'll say, "Oh, George went to 打球," means they went to play ball. 打球 means the action of playing ball. It doesn't matter what kind of like baseball, basketball, soccer. If they just want to say they're out, they went to play ball. They gone to 打球. Uh, so when did soccer start for Chinese people? There's a book that archaeologists have discovered in an ancient tomb in China. And in this book is written that the first version of earliest example of Chinese soccer, the name of this sport was called 蹴鞠. Okay, it wasn't 足球, it was called 蹴鞠. Uh, 蹴 means to kick, and G means a kind of ball that's made of animal skin. So 蹴鞠 means you kick a ball that's made of animal skin. The 蹴鞠 was the earliest name for soccer for Chinese people. In this book that was discovered by archaeologists, it's mentioned the legend of Chuji's origin. When the war between Huang Di and Chi You, we briefly mentioned these two guys before. Huang Di was the first emperor of Chinese people. I'm not talking about Qin Shi Huang. I'm not talking about the guy who built the Great Wall. He often was said to be the first emperor because he's the person that united China after China has been fractured and fragmented, uh, and he wanted to be known as the first emperor. But the real first emperor of China was called the Yellow Emperor, Huang Di, and this goes back more than 5,000 years ago when China was nothing but a handful of uh, uh, primitive uh, villages and clans are going to war with each other. Okay, so two of these clan leaders that went to war, one was called Huang Di, the Yellow Emperor, and the other one was called Chi You. Now, legend usually portray Chi You as some kind of horrific monster, but we all know that in a war, especially those really old war, they like to portray the side that get defeated always get portrayed to be monstrous and inhuman. This way, it makes the good guys, the winner, the victors, seem more heroic and justified and all that stuff. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Tsuyo was just a normal dude. I'm pretty sure he didn't actually have three heads and eight legs and 45 arms or and skin made of iron and stuff like that, like the legend says he did. So we'll just try to stay real for this episode. In one of the future episodes, we'll come back and take a focused view on the war between Huang Di and Chi You. Then we'll hit up all the cool legends and monsters and mythologies and stuff like that. But today we'll just keep it real and assume that Huang Di and Chi You were just two normal guys that leading their clansmen to war with each other. So, after a long, bloody war, Huang Di defeated Chi You, and in order to make sure that Chi You was dead and that he wanted to show his people that he truly defeated Chi You, Huang Di had his underlings cut open Chi Yu's belly and took out Chi Yu's stomach, and he somehow preserved the stomach of his enemy and stuffed it with Chi Yu's own hair and formed it into a ball. And for quite a while, Huang Di and his family would kick this ball around to remind themselves how they kicked Chi Yu's ass in battle and how they vanquished the enemy. This is the earliest uh, legend and origin of this Chinese soccer called Chuji. On record is Huang Di making a ball out of Chi Yu's stomach. Now this is like really gruesome, really disgusting. Okay, so there's another group of historian that said no. It you guys misread that. It's not translated that way. The real Chu Ji was that when Huang Di was training his army, when Huang Di was training his people so they can fight better on the battlefield, they had these stone balls that they would kick around to toughen up their feet so they could run faster and kick harder than the other side. So that's at the actual origin of Chu Ji. Huang Di was a good guy. He didn't cut open the stomach of his enemy and do that disgusting shit. Chu was a stone ball, not a ball made out of his enemy's stomach. So no matter which version of the legend you choose to believe, at least it's conclusive that Chuji came from the time of Huangdi, which is over 5,000 years ago. We now fast forward to about 3,000 years ago in the Yinshang dynasty in Chinese history. The Shang dynasty people really believed in a lot of superstitions, especially around rain dancing and human sacrifice. And in many ways, the Yinshang people were very similar in custom as Mayan people, the Aztec people, and those earlier civilizations. So during the Yinshang dynasty, um, whenever there's a famine or there's a drought, and people needed to um, do a rain dance to summon rain from the heaven. One of the biggest part of their rain dancing was this dance called 蹴鞠舞, called 蹴鞠 soccer dance, 蹴鞠舞. And a lot of the artwork that's been left over from 3,000 years ago still shows that during these rain dance, you have men and women um, dressed up in colorful outfit and they dance around, waving their arm in the air, singing and chanting, and their feet would be doing soccer move, kicking, ball kicking moves, but there's actually not a ball involved during this ceremony. They just pretend there's a ball. So it's almost like they're doing they're miming uh, soccer game. They're doing a fake soccer game without a ball during this rain dance. And that is very interesting that during the Song Dynasty that 蹴鞠 was used ceremonially to bring rain from the heaven. I know I have mentioned the Tomb Sweeping Day before. It's a big holiday, basically the Easter for Chinese people, happen in every spring. And Tomb Sweeping Day is a day when we are supposed to go to the cemetery and clean up the graves and uh, pay tribute to the ancestors and stuff like that. So why am I talking about tomb sweeping days all of a sudden? Because when we fast forward past the Yinshang dynasty and then we go to the Tang dynasty, okay, we fast forward a good 3,000, we fast forward a good 1,000 or so years to Tang dynasty. Um, in Tang Dynasty was when Chuji really became a popular every person's sport. Tang Dynasty have often been said to be the most enlightened dynasty in Chinese history. People had money, people had time for art and songs and music and dramas and sports. So Tang Dynasty, everyone played soccer, and one of the biggest events was the tomb sweeping soccer game. Right, every year on tomb sweeping day, after going to the gravesite and pull the get rid of the weed and wild grass and leave some food at the gravesite for your ancestors, people would use that day, the rest of the day, to play soccer around the cemeteries to liven up the place to make the cemetery seem like a more cheerful place. So in Tang Dynasty, the soccer game became a big, cheerful celebration around the tomb sweeping day every year. How popular was soccer in Tang Dynasty? Well, one of the most famous poets in Chinese history by the name of Du Fu. Uh, Before he passed away, Du Fu wrote a poem talking about the sport of soccer, the sport of 蹴鞠. And Du Fu wrote in his poem that in the last 10 years of my life, I traveled through every part of this great nation, and no matter where I went, I couldn't get away from soccer. So that meant that by Tang Dynasty, no matter where you went in China, no matter if it's southern provinces, the northern provinces, the western provinces, there's soccer everywhere. You just couldn't get away from that. And that is pretty amazing when you think that during the Tang Dynasty, there's no TV, no radio, no newspaper. So there's no way for something like this to spread as fast as it would today. But despite that, people all over China were playing soccer. And then we move into the Song Dynasty, and Chuji or soccer still was immensely popular. All the way from the founding emperor of Song Dynasty, Zhao Guangyin, to his brother Zhao Guangyi, to all the following Song Dynasty emperors were big fan of soccer. In the story of the water margin, I mentioned the water margin many times in the past, one of the greatest literature in Chinese history. In the water margin, the villain Gao Qiu, who was basically the emperor's minister, um, became the minister by being able to play really, really, really good soccer. uh, Gaucho, we'll segue briefly into that because it is relevant. Gaucho, his original name was not Gaucho, and they called him Gaucho because Gao means really superior, really good, and Qiu, like I said, means ball. So his name basically called good ball. That because he was a great soccer player. He was just a little like a hoodlum, like a nobody, uh, in the beginning of his life, and then he went to work for one of the princes as a delivery boy. And one day, when he was delivering a message from the prince to one of the lords, he just happened to see the lord playing soccer in the yard with his entourage. And just at that moment, the ball got bounced over toward the delivery boy, Gaucho. And without thinking, Gaucho hit the ball with the top of his head and then spun around and kicked it back towards the Lord without breaking the stride. That impressed the Lord so much that the Lord asked the prince that if he could have Gaucho sent over to him and become his one of his underlings. And later, this lord became one of the emperors of the Song Dynasty, and Gaoqiu became the emperor's minister. So here is a great example of being at a place at the right time and having some superior skill really allow Gaoqiu to be able to uh, climb up the right tree and be able to reach the height of his career. Yeah, being able to play soccer had nothing to do with being able to rule a country, which is why he was such a lousy minister. But that didn't matter to the emperor. Here's a guy who plays soccer really, really good, and I really like the guy, so I'm going to make him my minister. If you don't think things work that way, just look at the people that Donald Trump is picking for his cabinet right now. Sorry, I just have to throw that in. It's like a big joke over there. It's disgusting. Let's not dwell on it. Let's go back to soccer. So, uh, at 1127, at the Southern Song Dynasty, 1127 AD, 600 years before the first ever soccer club was founded in Europe. The first soccer club was founded in China, in the Song Dynasty, and this soccer club was called Qi Yun Se. 齐云社, the Cloud Riders Club, 齐云社. And anyone who was great at soccer could join the club and go there and play any day. Their slogan was play the game, have good sportsmanship, and leave winning or losing to the referee. That's a great attitude. I think people today should really think about that. And I think a lot of people uh, care too much about who's winning, who's losing, and why can't we win and stuff like that. I think a lot of people forget it's just a game. It's just a game. Just have fun, do your best, and then don't worry about it. Some Dynasty people, they were so much into soccer that they even made a word for the technique used in soccer. Right? Any of the techniques you see used in 蹴鞠 in soccer was called 解术. Right? And 解术, like almost like its own martial art uh, 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 style, almost like its own sword fighting curriculum, have a whole bunch of different um, techniques like stomp and kick and hook and spread and sweep and uh, toe hook and knee bump and shin kick and all kind of stuff. It's almost like they made the soccer curriculum look almost like a martial art curriculum. And all these moves were given extravagant name like skydive or swallowtail or crooked uh, crooked kick or uh, 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 mountain hook or um, climbing the pillar or something like a lot of these uh, techniques have martial art like names. But the word 解术 is still in use today. A lot of time when someone is trying to say that they tried really hard, they are using all the uh, everything they have. When doing something, let's say when I am trying to accomplish a task, I may say I have used all my 解术, my 浑身解术, uh, like the 解术 from my whole body. That's the 解术 from Song Dynasty. That's the same. That word came from the name for these set of soccer techniques. So a lot of people today say, "我用的浑身解数. I use all my 解数 to do this." They don't. They are saying this, but they don't know. Like if you ask them, "What does 解数 mean?" They're, "Oh, I don't know." Uh, like all my power or something. No, 解术 means a set of soccer techniques left over from Song Dynasty. So I hope that this have illustrated to you that yes, Chinese people have had 蹴鞠 or soccer throughout our history as of 5,000 years ago, and just it's a continuous lineage from Huangdi time to Shang Dynasty to Tang Dynasty to Song Dynasty. Um, so some people would say, okay, so what happened then? How come um, how come the modern Chinese people seem to think that 蹴鞠 or soccer or 足球 came from white people? Well, this unfortunately is because of the Ming Dynasty founding emperor Zhu Yuanzhang. We mentioned Zhu Yuanzhang before. Some people said he's a great guy because he threw the Mongols out of China and reclaimed China for Chinese people. So that's great. But Zhu Yuanzhang, in many ways, had a lot of hang-ups because he started out as a peasant. He started out as a farmer, a beggar, a monk. He was homeless for the longest time, and it's through a lot of hard work and hardship and good luck that he managed to fight his way up to the top and became the founding emperor of the Ming Dynasty. But this means that Zhu Yuanzhang had a lot of pet peeves, a lot of traumas, a lot of personal stuff that he didn't leave behind him. So when he became emperor, he reformed the government to the way he thought the government should be. And one of those reforms was outlawing soccer. Why? Because don't forget, he was a peasant, he was a beggar, he was homeless. He didn't have he didn't even have food. So obviously, for most of his life, he looked at these people that have the extra time to play soccer like they were the biggest uh, drag on society. What? I have to work my ass off 24 hours a day just to afford a meal, and you guys have the time to play soccer? What's wrong with you? So when he became emperor, he vowed to outlaw soccer because he believed soccer was a waste of time, a waste of energy, and people shouldn't be having fun. People should be working. We should be working 24 hours a day. If you work 24 hours a day, then you can be an emperor like I am. That's basically his mentality. So um, he put it into law that anyone who played soccer would have their feet cut off. So you can imagine that basically ended soccer for Chinese people. Like no one's going to risk getting their feet chopped off to play a game. So for the entire Ming Dynasty, soccer became kind of an underground activity, something that you really risk in your life to play. So it wasn't uh, allowed for Chinese people, but when uh, during the Ming Dynasty, when Chinese people started trading more and more with foreigners, then foreigners came to China and heard about this Chuju, this soccer, and they brought it back with them, and it became more popular in the foreign country, in white people's country. Uh, that is that is my supposition. Okay, that part I will say that that part is my supposition. Um, but yeah, the reality is that Zhu Yuanzhang, the Ming Dynasty founding emperor, effectively ended soccer for Chinese people for 200 or 300 years. And then after that, the Qing dynasty, the Qing emperors brought in, because the Qing dynasty people, they were not Chinese people, they were the Manchu tribe from the north. So when they came through to China, when they ruled China, they brought in their own sports and their own games. And so even though Chuju was no longer outlawed, it was still highly discouraged because it was viewed as a Chinese sport, not a Manchu sport. So to play Chuju was uh, wasn't going to get you any kind of popularity or notoriety with the government. If you wanted to do really well and be noticed by the government, then you need to play a Manchu sport during the Qing dynasty. So you can imagine that 200 or 300 years of Ming Dynasty and then 400 years of Qing Dynasty, soccer has either been outlawed or been highly discouraged. And then after that, during the democracy, the beginning of democratic Chinese, there's so much civil war going on. There's barely any time for anyone to play soccer. So this resulted in soccer being largely forgotten by Chinese people. Thank you for checking out today's episode. I hope this has been enlightening or at the very least educational or enjoyable. I'll be back again tomorrow for some Toy Thursday. For now, 谢谢 and 再见。